Most fun healer for Mythic Plus. The most fun healer is the one that gets you invited to groups and is considered to be the most overpowered, am I right? At least that's what I tell myself every day. Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we'll be looking at the most fun healers for me in Mythic Plus environment. And again, if you're watching this video, you probably want to hear my opinion, but this is a highly subjective video. Something that I find fun might not be fun for you, and there's multiple parameters that I'll be using to base why healer is fun in Mythic Plus environment. And the reason I'm doing Mythic Plus and not raiding, because I don't have very strong opinions about the most fun healer or the least fun healer in raiding environment. I feel all of the healers have weaknesses and strengths when it comes to raiding, while in Mythic Plus I feel there's definitely an easier way to rank healers in terms of what I find fun and what I find not so fun. So first of all, the parameters I'll be using will include healing rotation and how the healing rotation fits into this whole fast Mythic Plus playstyle. I'll also be looking at utility and also healer DPS, and a lot of people are gonna lose me on this because a lot of new healers, they don't tend to DPS a whole lot, but at this given point, healer DPS is the meta. And this ranking, if I didn't include DPS, would be a lot different. So keep this in mind. DPS or healer DPS is a big parameter in terms of healer fun for me in Mythic Plus environment. So let's get started with number 6, and that is Holy Priest. Now people straight away will be like, oh, Holy Priest number 6, they must be garbage, they must be terrible to play, they must be so unfun. And it's not exactly right. I actually really enjoy Holy Priest in Mythic Plus, and I really like Holy Priest in raiding. I feel Holy Priest in raiding is a whole different beast, but this is looking at Mythic Plus. I do like Holy Priest. I do enjoy every healer in Mythic Plus environment. I feel everyone has a strength and weaknesses. But I feel when you compare Holy Priest to every other healer in the game right now in this 5-man content, they seem to lack that something in terms of DPS, maybe in terms of healing. As you know, Holy Priest power throughout BfA is coming from their mastery. That is true for raiding especially, and to some extent in Mythic Plus as well. And mastery is basically your direct heals are going to leave a hot on a target. So all of a sudden, because mastery is so strong, your direct heals or your healing abilities in general don't seem to have a lot of initial power. This is not always true, but I feel it's almost similar to Resto Druid playstyle, but Resto Druids will apply hots, which get stronger the more hots you apply, and they become really strong, while Holy Priest is like, you do your heals and you hope to apply your mastery, and that mastery hot is going to do a lot of healing over time. Feel that Resto Druid playstyle tends to fit Mythic Plus environment more than what Holy Priest provides in terms of Mythic Plus gameplay, but that's just my opinion. I still feel you can push really high Mythic Plus with Holy Priest. I do not enjoy their DPS that much, and again, this is going to the DPS rotation. I mean, you still have a lot of DPS buttons to press, like, you know, you have Smite, you have Holy Fire, you have Holy Word Chastise, which is a DPS ability, and also a stun. So you do have a, you know, 1, 2, 3 rotation that you can do in order to do DPS, but to some extent, I feel Holy Priest is lacking in Mythic Plus. A lot of their abilities might require hard casting. I feel Holy Priest really fits raiding environment where they have a ton of AoE abilities, they have a ton of healing cooldowns, they have things like Holy Word Salvation, which is an extremely fun and strong healing cooldown in raids. You don't pick that in Mythic Plus. So if you are playing Holy Priest, in my opinion, I have more fun in raids than in Mythic Plus. Now let's go to number 5, and this is going to be maybe shocking to some people, and that is going to be Mistweaver Monk. Mistweaver Monk is here mainly because I kind of burned out on Mistweaver, because I actually mained Mistweaver for the 3 raiding tiers in BfA. I pushed my Mistweaver Monk in Mythic Plus, I did a lot of Mythic Plus with my Mistweaver Monk, so I do feel a little bit of a burnout here, but overall I feel Mistweaver in terms of pure healing throughput, they're extremely strong. It's one of the safest healers if you need single target healing, because their single target healing is still really strong. Their AoE is strong as well. Essence Font is castable on the move, which is very good in Mythic Plus environment, on this fast-paced, keep moving environment. They feel really strong. They can provide really good single target healing. I do feel as well that if you run really low haste amount as a Mistweaver in Mythic Plus environment, it tends to feel a lot more clunkier, because all of a sudden your single target rotation of Soothing Mist, Enveloping Mist, BfA with low amounts of haste tends to feel a little bit clunky, but this could be said for a lot of healers, where haste can really make the class feel a lot more fun. But at the same time, if you tend to go with more haste, with classes that tend to have mana issues, you can't really do that, especially on tyrannical weeks where mana might become a really big problem. So I do feel stat priority can make classes a lot more fun. But in general, if I look at Mistweaver monks, Warrior the Crane can be extremely fun. I'm sure you've seen some of the MDI pulls where they use Warrior the Crane, they pull like tons of trash bags and they do really nice amount of healing and the gameplay is really fun. And I agree. But in real life scenarios, if you're pugging, this does not happen. A lot of the times people might not be pulling a lot of trash bags. You might be wasting your Warrior the Crane on one trash bag and all of a sudden you don't get these huge pulls. And it's a lot harder to organize in pug environments. If you have an organized group, Mistweaver Monk with Warrior the Crane can feel really fun. But in my experience, pugging, this has rarely happened and a lot of the times it just gets wasted to some extent. I should also mention that Mistweaver with the default build could be regarded as the lowest healer DPS in the game, depending on how you play it. And if DPS is or at least doing a lot of DPS as a healer is a big part of your enjoyment for healing, Mistweaver Monk can feel a little bit lackluster, but you have to remember, a lot of the times you'll be just applying that 5% physical debuff that monks provide in a party, and that's gonna help with the overall DPS. So I do have to mention that Mistweaver is number 5th. There is a lot of changes that are happening in 8.3 with fist weaving. Maybe fist weaving is going to become a thing in Mythic Plus and raids, and that is gonna bring a new playstyle. So Mistweaver can climb, and I'm waiting for those 8.3 changes to really bring my love back to a class, to a healing class that I really enjoyed at the start of BfA. And number 4 is going to be Holy Paladin. And this is a little bit of a weird choice because Holy Paladin is one of the strongest raid healers and one of the strongest Mythic Plus healers. A lot of people might put Holy Paladin as the second best Mythic Plus healer. But I don't think that I really enjoy this cooldown based healing style. Now, this is completely subjective. If you like being reliant on cooldowns, if you're playing a DPS class that's really reliant on cooldowns, you might like Holy Paladin, because Holy Paladin or Glimmer of Light Holy Paladin is very fun to play as long as you can really optimize your cooldowns. Holy Avenger Wings. That cooldown window is going to account or make you feel like a god tier healer, will provide you the biggest burst DPS in the game where you can compete with other DPS classes easily with those cooldowns. But outside of those cooldowns, you can feel a little bit weak, and all of a sudden maybe a tank or someone else pull the trash back and you have no cooldowns and you have to be like, take it easy guys, I don't have my cooldowns, let's be really careful. And I don't think I really enjoy this playstyle, especially in pug environments. Again, highly subjective. If you want that huge DPS burst, Holy Paladin can be really fun. I feel in organized Mythic Plus groups, Holy Paladin and the cooldown windows where they can be optimized can be really fun. And on top of that, to increase your playstyle or make your playstyle more fun, you can run Indomitable Justice trait, which makes Judgment a much more powerful DPS rotation tool, and all of a sudden you might have a more fun DPS rotation with more DPS abilities, and Judgment is going to do a ton of damage, and you can do DPS and healing, and it feels more a complete package. But overall, I feel I might not be a huge fan of a healer who's dependent that much on cooldowns. I think I prefer a more sustainable or more sustained healer that can do good DPS, good healing at all times. So let's look at number 3, and that is going to be Discipline Priest. Now, I really enjoy Discipline Priest playstyle because it is a lot different than other healers, because you DPS in order to heal, and this whole playstyle allows you to make meaningful choices when you want to play offensively or defensively, and it really allows you to have some of the insane healing bursts with Schism. I feel Schism is a very important part of Discipline playstyle in Mythic Plus and in raiding, and it can feel really good. But the fact that Discipline Priest is not number 2 or number 1 in terms of the most fun healers is because they suffer far too much from affixes that persist after mobs are dead. So things like bursting, things like grievous, all of a sudden you have to play more defensive, you have to be more careful about the healing, and you might pick Twist of Fate talent instead of Schism. You might pick Shadow Covenant in order to be able to heal outside of, you know, hitting the mobs. I feel the playstyle changes a lot and it becomes a lot less engaging. Also the fact that Schism right now, you can apply Schism, which is a relatively short cooldown, and you can use your DPS essences, your DPS trinkets to increase their DPS and have some really cool DPS numbers or total average DPS at the end of the run. This is getting changed in 8.3. All of a sudden Schism is not going to affect the DPS of your essences or trinkets, and all of a sudden your rotation, or maybe you'll be holding to your Crucible of Flame stacks for Schism, you probably won't be doing that in 8.3 because it's not really going to affect anything, and I feel the engagement is going to dip. So that's the reason why I don't include Discipline as number 2, number 1, because they seem to suffer more than any other healers in terms of affixes, and some of the 8.3 changes feel a little bit weird. And number 2 might be a surprise for a lot of people, but Resto Shaman is my second most fun healer in Mythic Plus. And it's not because they're overpowered, it's because I feel they have one of the most engaging rotations to do with utility, DPS, and healing. All of a sudden, Resto Shaman is the utility king. You're the only healer that has an interrupt, a range interrupt at that. You also have AoE stun, AoE slows, you have purge. You have so many buttons to deal with different type of mechanics. And on top of that, Igneous Potential is a huge part of what makes Resto Shaman interesting in Mythic Plus. You can apply Flame Shock on a mobs, you know, do your healing, maybe build up your Cloud Burst if you're using Cloud Burst in Mythic Plus, and then you get Lava Surge, which is going to be an instant Lava Burst proc. And all of a sudden with Igneous Potential, you can do a ton of DPS, and then you have to decide, do I need to interrupt this mob? Do I need to stun this mob? Do I need to heal the tank? Do I need to heal the group? On top of that, getting a juicy chain heal on a stacked group can feel really satisfying. Like, it feels really good, especially with some of the Mythic Plus talents. They increase your chain heal on healing weeks that require a lot of AoE healing. But overall, you can consider Resto Shaman to be a healer that sometimes requires 3 or 4 global cooldowns to achieve something that can be done by one global cooldown by another healer. For example, Resto Druid Sunfire can provide a ton of AoE DPS with one global cooldown, while Resto Shaman has to invest more button presses. You can view that as a bad thing. I view it as more engaging playstyle that creates situations where you need to make meaningful decisions of what you want to do. For example, maybe you're going to opt in to interrupt the target instead of healing your tank, because interrupting that target is going to prevent a lot of damage. So I feel there is a lot of engagement with Resto Shaman in Mythic Plus. They might not be viewed as the best healers, but in my opinion, they're probably one of the most engaging healers, and you create really cool choices. And number 1, of course, no surprise here in terms of viability, Resto Druid is the most popular Mythic Plus healer in Mythic environments, but in terms of fun, I feel it is a complete class with no disadvantages whatsoever. At the start of the video, I said that in raiding, every class has advantages, every class has disadvantages, but in Mythic Plus, or at least I can't think of an area where Resto Druid is not good at. Their healing is very constant. They can do a lot of constant healing. Maybe your hot is not going to provide a great amount of initial healing, but if you stack it on a target, the healing gets increased from your mastery, and if you have your mastery, it's going to be insanely strong. The whole healing fits this Mythic Plus playstyle where you're pulling trash pack after trash pack, you're trying to apply hots on as many targets as possible, or the targets are going to take damage, and with the hot applications, you have more time to do damage. Your default damage rotation or default damage abilities, Moonfire, Sunfire, Solar Rat, are there by default. But if you pick Feral Affinity, you get a whole bunch of new DPS abilities. So your toolkit is double the size when you compare it to other healers, double the size, more fun, or at least that's the way I view it. So the playstyle of Resto Druid with the amount of utility, the amount of hots, dots, bleeds, it's just insane. I feel Blizzard has really done a good job with Resto Druid in Mythic Plus environment. They just fit really well, and I feel if you enjoy healer DPS, Resto Druid can feel very engaging. Again, let me know how you feel about this video, guys. This is very subjective. This is the most fun healer for Mythic Plus, and this is my list. This list would have been a lot different if I didn't take DPS or healer DPS into account. So keep this in mind. If you're a new healer coming into BfA or new healer coming into World of Warcraft and you don't want the DPS, this is probably not a good list to go by. And again, subjective. I would love to hear your opinions about which healers would you have ranked in terms of the most fun in Mythic Plus, and which healers you find the most engaging. Let me know, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.